Well, President Biden spent the afternoon in the key swing state of Ohio, pushing his economic agenda and seeking to convince voters it's working. Well, that is a tall order. According to a survey from the University of Michigan, consumers think the economy right now is the worst it has ever been. Now, this isn't actually true, but it is important because it shows how unhappy Americans are, how taxed they feel right now. And in addition, the most recent poll from Monmouth University shows 42% of Americans say that they are struggling financially. And of course, we know the president is at his lowest approval rating so far in his presidency at 36%. White House columnist for The Hill, Niall Stanage, joins us now. And Niall, in the face of all of this, here's what the president said today. Let's get your reaction on the other side.
We got a long way to go because of inflation, because of I call it the Putin tax increase. Putin because of gasoline and all that grain he's keeping from being able to get to the market.
Well, so Niall, approval ratings wise, can the president afford to continue blaming Russia, blaming Putin, no matter how legitimate that may be? Americans are hurting every single day, calling this the worst economy on record. Is there any amount of messaging at this point that can solve that for them?
I don't think so, Natasha. I think that's the simple answer. Messaging works if the underlying reality is debatable or if you can spin the underlying reality. When inflation is at its highest point in 40 years, there is no way of spinning that reality. People feel that every time they go to the grocery store, they feel it every time they fill up their car, and there isn't a way out of it. Now, clearly the war in Ukraine has had an impact, particularly on gas prices, but the idea that that is a politically effective argument at this point in time or will protect President Biden or the Democrats in the midterm elections, I think that's a fanciful idea.
And Niall, you mentioned filling up. Thankfully, we have seen that gas prices have leveled off a bit. We learned today, even the Federal Reserve, though, thinks that rising prices still pose a significant risk to the U.S. economy. And perhaps that means a lot to the fortunes of Democrats in November. Is that right?
Yes, I think so. Unless inflation can be got under control quite rapidly, I think it spells real trouble for Democrats. Now, remember, Natasha, Democrats are already battling quite serious headwinds going into November. Traditionally, the president's party loses seats in the first midterm elections. Obviously, the president's approval ratings are low as well. To have inflation on top of all that really makes it a very, very tough climb for Democrats. And, the problem for the president and his party is they don't really have that many levers to change the inflationary curve. That is power that really resides primarily with the Federal Reserve and interest rates.
Well, and in the meantime, the rising prices are having real effects, right? Since December, American savings have dwindled by more than 7%, and that is partly due to the price of gas doubling during this current presidency. If there is a clear plan in place to get us to the other side, Americans might be willing to tolerate some of that pain. But Niall, I think if you ask the average American, what is the president's plan to fight inflation, could they even answer that? Is the White House doing a good enough job of giving a bold, clear plan forward?
It's not really. Now, in fairness to the White House, it is difficult for any president to himself get inflation under control single-handedly. As I say, interest rates are the main tool to control inflation, and that is controlled by the Federal Reserve. The White House would prefer to be talking about things like the unemployment rate, and it also makes the point that inflation is a global problem. But again, I would seriously question the political efficacy of those arguments. I mean, if someone is going to the grocery store in Birmingham, Alabama, and seeing prices rise, whether prices are also rising in Birmingham, England, or Barcelona in Spain, is neither here nor there as far as how that person feels about the president. So that is the problem in making these arguments about the international situation or even the job market, which only really affects people who are actively seeking a job, whereas inflation affects everyone all the time.
Yeah, such a good comparison. Niall Stanage, associate editor and White House columnist at The Hill. Thank you so much, as always.
A pleasure. Thanks.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.